Questions to the Solicitor-General. John Lamont. Oh.
Mr. Speaker, question number 1.
Solicitor-General. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This government remains absolutely committed to stamping out the appalling crimes of child sexual exploitation and abuse. The national inquiry chaired by Baroness Longfield is due to start in March. The CPS have seen a 25% increase in child sex abuse prosecutions over the last 3 years. In December, they secured convictions against 2 men in Bury for crimes during the 1990s, resulting in sentences of 28 and 30 years. We are dedicated to ensuring that victims continue to receive the justice they deserve.
Baroness Casey's audit into group-based child sexual exploitation found a collective failure to properly deter and prosecute offenders or to protect children from harm. These crimes happen across borders and in every part of the United Kingdom. So what more can be done to ensure prosecution services, including the CPS and Scotland's Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service, take a joined-up approach to bringing these vile offenders to justice?
Solicitor-General.
The honourable gentleman makes an important point. Many of the local services under review in the National Inquiry will start in March, particularly child protection and policing are devolved responsibilities in Scotland and Northern Ireland. My understanding is that the Scottish Government have finally ordered a national review of the evidence on the operation of grooming gangs in Scotland. All parts of the UK must work together to protect children and bring perpetrators to justice.
Baxter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Government's strategy to tackle violence against women and girls sets out measures to tackle grooming gangs and support victims of sexual abuse. What steps is my right honourable friend taking to work with colleagues to improve access to justice for victims of rape and serious sexual assault and implement that strategy?
Solicitor-General.
May I start by congratulating my honourable friend on receiving the Order of Merit from President Zelensky for her tireless campaigning for the children of Ukraine. I know she and I share a number of priorities, and I'm proud to sit on the benches alongside her. Mr. Speaker, for too long, victims of grooming gangs and serious sexual assault haven't been heard. That's why last week I announced the expansion of the Victims' Right to Review pilot, which will ensure victims have a second chance for justice, with a second prosecutor reviewing a case before it's dropped by the CPS. This expansion has been driven by victims like Jade Blue, and I want to pay tribute to her campaigning in this area.
Patricia first.
Question number 2, please, Mr. Speaker.
Solicitor-General.
FGM is an abhorrent practice, and I am determined to see more prosecutions. Earlier this week, I spoke at the CPS's second national multi-agency conference on honour-based abuse. I was privileged to have survivors share their stories with me and was moved by their bravery and advocacy for others. I agree with them that we urgently need to improve the criminal justice response to these cases. In December last year, I attended the first national honour-based scrutiny panel hosted by the CPS and will continue to work closely with them on this.
Patricia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. By its very nature, FGM is, of course, a hidden tragedy for many women and girls, and it's important that prosecution rates are increased. One way to do that would be to emphasise and to publicise the use of FGM protection orders, which can help to prevent the carrying out of FGM both here and abroad. FGM protection orders apply in all jurisdictions of the UK now. So can the Attorney-General and the Department advise what action they can take to make the use of such orders and the possibility of such orders better known?
Solicitor-General.
I thank my honourable friend for that question, and we're launching a pilot in 4 forces to test multi-agency approaches to managing FGM protection orders. What I would say is that a whole system approach is fundamental to tackling FGM and increasing prosecutions. In the spring, myself and the Minister for Safeguarding will be hosting a ministerial roundtable dedicated to FGM, bringing together every department with a role to play to come together to agree collective action to strengthen the prevention, investigation and prosecution of these offences.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many of those practitioners who sell the heinous crime of female genital mutilation also sell exorcisms of children. Over thousands of children have died from these so-called exorcisms, particularly from the Black African community here in the UK over the last 10 years. Does the Minister have any consideration what needs to be done in the law to protect these children?
Solicitor-General.
The Honourable Lady makes an extremely important point. This government is committed to tackling violence against women and girls in every form. That is why we announced our cross-government strategy for tackling VORG in December. I will happily speak to colleagues across the Home Office and Ministry of Justice to make sure the points she raises today are properly addressed.
Rachel Taylor.
Question 3, please, Mr. Speaker.
Solicitor-General.
This government is determined to make the UK a hostile environment for economic crime. The CPS plays a pivotal role in deterring offenders and bringing fraudsters to justice, with consistently high conviction rates of about 86%. Last year, the CPS successfully secured the first prosecution for the breach of financial sanctions, convicting 2 Russian nationals of 8 counts of breaching financial sanctions and 2 counts of money laundering. The Directorate will continue its swift response to the evolving nature of economic crime and maintain focus on delivering justice for the public.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a practising solicitor for over 20 years, I'm of course aware of the rules and professional guidance on conflicts of interest. So does the Solicitor-General agree with me that the Shadow Attorney-General recusing himself from giving legal advice to the Leader of the Opposition because he'd rather profit from advising Abramovich demonstrates where the priorities lie for the party opposite when it comes to backing this government on economic sanctions in defence of Ukraine and our national security?
Solicitor-General.
Thank my honourable friend for that question. It is utterly indefensible that the Shadow Attorney-General in the other place is acting as a lawyer for sanctioned Russian billionaire Roman Abramovich. He has recused himself from giving legal advice to the party opposite on the issue of Ukraine and financial sanctions, sacrificing a key element of his role in order to work against our national interests. This government is putting national security at the heart of every decision and stands in staunch solidarity with Ukraine.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, and can I thank the Solicitor-General very much for her answer. The Solicitor-General announced an expansion of the Victims' Right to Review scheme, allowing rape and serious sexual assault survivors to request a case review by a different prosecutor before a final no-evidence decision is made. That's great news and it's much welcomed. What discussion has taken place with counterparts across the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland Assembly in particular, Police and Justice Minister, to ensure there is a UK-wide path to justice? Thank you.
Solicitor-General.
I'm grateful for the honourable gentleman's colleagues' comments in relation to the Victims' Right to Review scheme, which will give victims of rape and serious sexual violence a greater voice in the justice system. Too often, victims feel let down by a system that is supposed to be there to support them. I will ensure that I speak to my colleagues in the Northern Ireland office to see what more can be done in respect of Northern Ireland.
Number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, with permission, I will answer questions 4 and 8 together. In December, the Deputy Prime Minister set out the measures this government is taking to tackle the crisis we face in our courts. As I've stated in the House before, jury trials will remain the cornerstone of our justice system, but reform and investment is needed to cut through the backlog, which is approaching 80,000 cases. 90% of criminal prosecutions are already dealt with by magistrates rather than juries, and juries will remain for the most serious cases.
Mr Speaker, the President of the Law Society has described the proposals as, and I quote, an extreme measure that goes too far. The Chair of the Criminal Bar Association has described them as, and again I quote, a wrecking ball to a system that is fundamentally sound and has been in place for generations, and pointed out the juries are not the cause of the backlogs, and their own backbench MPs have described the proposals as a dereliction of duty, a ludicrous proposal that will not work, a fundamental change to how our criminal justice system operates, which goes too far, and the consequence would be to destroy justice as we know it. Why does the government think that they are all wrong?
Solicitor-General.
Sir Brian Levison, in his report, estimated that 20% of time would be saved if these reforms are introduced. At the moment, we've got a situation where victims of rape are waiting 3, sometimes 4 years for their cases to get to court. Investment in the system is also important. That's why we've got the maximum number of sitting days that we've ever seen, an investment in criminal defence lawyers and investment in our courtrooms. But Levison in his report made clear that the investment alone won't tackle these huge backlogs that we're facing.
James White.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Yesterday, a jury failed to reach a verdict on charges against Palestine Action activists involved in a violent incident in which a police sergeant's spine was broken when she was struck by a sledgehammer. Does the Solicitor-General agree with me and law-abiding people across the country that it's an imperative...
Order. I understand there is some sub judice. Can we be very careful about what we're about to say? I'm just giving a warning there is sub judice, please. Yeah, correct.
Does the Solicitor-General agree that as the CPS considers whether to bring a retrial, they should bring a retrial on these serious charges, including assault occasioning grievous bodily harm?
The idea was not to talk about the particular case, the court case. I think we'll leave it at that. Andy Slaughter, the chair of the... Sorry, I think the man was struggling with my ruling. My ruling is that you were not deliberate, talking about the case and asking what was going to happen with the court case, which puts us in the position that we shouldn't be questioned. We're crossing a line that we don't cross. That's what it is. It's not that I wanted to pull the honourable member up, let me reassure you. Understand.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. Now we have Sir Brian Levison's full review. It's clear that very few of the 180 recommendations relate to jury trial, but the most controversial is really around the use of a single judge in the new Crown Court bench division. Given that also looks like one of the provisions which is going to not contribute very much to reducing the backlog, does the Solicitor-General think we should perhaps look again at that, maybe in terms of the length of sentence that is dealt with by that particular provision?
Solicitor-General.
Well, I thank my honourable friend, as always, for his insightful comments. Levison, in his report, estimated that these reforms would speed up cases by 20%. The Deputy Prime Minister recently visited Canada and was informed there that it could speed up cases by as much as 50%. Any reform must go hand in hand with investment, which is why we have seen an increase in sitting days now at the highest ever level, as well as the investment into criminal defence lawyers and into the crumbling courtrooms that were left behind by 13 years of Conservative government.
The food.
Mr Speaker, I know from my own experience serving as a magistrate the crucial role that they play in our criminal justice system. They are more representative of our country as a whole and the communities that they serve. We also all know the pressures on the court system, but can the Solicitor-General set out the role that magistrates can play in bringing down the backlog and bringing down victim attrition rates?
Solicitor-General.
Well, can I start by thanking my honourable friend for her service as a magistrate. They, of course, have a huge role to play in our criminal justice system. And cases in magistrates' courts continue to be dealt with swiftly despite increased demand. Magistrates hear around 1.3 million cases per year, and it normally ensures there's around 6 months' worth of work ready for magistrates to hear at any time. We're accelerating our programme to recruit more new and diverse magistrates and are committed to supporting magistrates. They are the backbone of local justice and keep the entire system turning.
Solicitor-General Helen Brown.
Mr. Speaker, there is a fundamental contradiction at the heart of government. The Courts Minister says she'd scrap jury trials even if there was not a crisis in the courts. The Lord Chancellor says he's open to a conversation about alternatives and wants the backlog coming down. So which is it, Mr. Speaker? Is it about the backlog, in which case what alternatives to scrapping jury trials are actually being considered? Or is this just an unworkable attack on our civil liberties wrapped up in ideology?
Solicitor General.
Well, I'd remind the Honourable Lady that 90% of cases in this country are already heard without a jury. But I don't think it can be denied that there is a crisis in our courts left by 14 years of Conservative government. It cannot be right. It cannot be right that victims of rape are waiting 3, sometimes 4 years for their cases to get to court. But as I've said before, reform on its own isn't enough. That's why we have a record number of sitting days. It is why we are putting £550 million into support for victims and have increased solicitor fees. We have to look across the system as to how we can do better, because justice delayed is justice denied.
Ellen Grant.
Well, that was a very disappointing answer. And there's another contradiction too, Mr. Speaker, this time on retrospectivity. The Courts Minister says cases already committed for trial at Crown Court could be pushed back to Swift Courts. The Lord Chancellor suggests these changes would only apply to new cases. Mr. Speaker, this is not a minor discrepancy. This is about people's lives. And you can't champion legal certainty on the one hand and flirt with retrospective decision-making on the other. It's absurd. So which version are we meant to believe? The Lord Chancellor's or the Minister's?
Solicitor General.
Well, any changes will need to go through legislation in this House in the normal way, and I'm sure those on the benches opposite will want to scrutinise any proposals that will put forward to you. I'm happy to take away those questions to the Ministry of Justice and ensure that the Honourable Lady receives an answer.
Maguire, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Jury trials are not a peculiar way to run a public service. They are a fundamental pillar of our justice system, now being eroded under this government's proposed court reforms. Serious reform should focus on reducing inefficiencies that waste sitting days, increasing court capacity, and making use of vacant courtrooms, not scrapping the right to trial by jury. If these proposals are intended to reduce the Crown Court backlog, should this House not be given clear evidence before core constitutional protections are weakened? Could the Solicitor-General please tell us whether the Government will publish an estimate of what proportion of current Crown Court backlog would be sent to judge-only trials as a result of these reforms? And given it's Sexual Abuse and Sexual Violence Awareness Week, what assessment's been made of how these judge-only proposals will affect vulnerable victims of domestic abuse?
These proposed changes would apply to less than 2% of all criminal trial cases. Under the reforms, almost 3/4 of trial cases coming to the Crown Court would still be heard by a jury, and that includes offences such as rape. There are transparency measures built in to safeguard justice, with judges setting out reasons for their verdicts and introducing recording in the magistrates' courts.
Sonny Kumar.
Question 5, Mr Speaker.
Solicitor-General.
Last April, the Government published a modern slavery action plan to reinforce our commitment to working across government and with law enforcement, civil society, survivors, businesses and international partners to prevent exploitation, protect victims and pursue those responsible for these awful crimes. The Crown Prosecution Service plays a central role in tackling modern slavery and human trafficking. They work closely with law enforcement and international partners and will prosecute any cases referred to them wherever the legal test is met.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Paige, my constituent, a 24-year-old survivor of human trafficking, was betrayed not only by abusers but also the very systems that were meant to protect her. When she reached crisis point and attempted to take her life, she was denied continuous medical healthcare support, and while her advocate was excluded from multi-agency meetings. Will the Solicitor-General set up what steps are being taken to increase prosecutions for human trafficking and ensure victims like Paige receive consistent therapeutic and legal support from initial disclosure through to aftercare that follows court proceedings?
Solicitor-General.
I thank my honourable friend for raising this important issue, and I'm very sorry to hear about the experiences of her constituent, Paige. Modern slavery cases are complex, and the CPS will always ensure that its prosecutors share best practice and insights to improve outcomes for victims. And as I said previously, this government is committed to spending £550 million to support victims. In May 2025, the CPS established a modern slavery national scrutiny panel chaired by the Independent Anti-Slavery Commission to examine its performance in modern slavery and human trafficking cases. Insights shared from the process are shared with the CPS network and strengthening decision-making, case-building and support for vulnerable victims.
Barbara.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. We know that the disgusting paedophile Jeffrey Epstein had thousands of victims across the world who he trafficked. Many of them are British victims and survivors who would have been thoroughly re-traumatised by the events of just the last few days. What steps will the government take to ensure that all those who aided and abetted the trafficking that Jeffrey Epstein perpetrated are also prosecuted by the British state?
Solicitor-General.
The honourable gentleman makes an important point. Tackling violence against women and girls is my #1 priority in government, and just as it was when I was in opposition. Can I just say I'm in awe of the bravery of the victims that have come forward. I am absolutely disgusted and sickened by revelations that have come out in recent days, and I stand in solidarity with those victims. I will make sure that I'm speaking across government to see what more can be done.
Iqbal Mohammed.
Question number 6, Mr Speaker.
Solicitor-General.
The suffering in Gaza is indefensible. We've been very clear that Israel has an obligation under international humanitarian law to ensure the provision of aid in Gaza, and that UNRWA has a critical role. The priority is for aid routes to be fully opened, international aid to get in, and international NGOs be permitted to operate in Gaza again. UK support so far has meant over 430,000 people have received essential healthcare and over 650,000 have received food. We are working intensively to support global peace initiatives, and humanitarian aid delivery is an integral part of that.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. On the 26th of January 2024, the ICJ found that it is, and I quote, plausible that Israel's acts could infringe rights of the Palestinian people protected by the Genocide Convention. Since then, tens of thousands have been murdered and Gaza reduced to rubble. The ICJ has affirmed that states have a duty to act when they learn of a serious risk of genocide and must take immediate and effective proactive measures to protect vulnerable populations. So will the Solicitor-General confirm what specific proactive measures the UK government has taken to fulfil its obligations to prevent genocide under the Genocide Convention in Palestine, and what more does it need to do?
Since this government has come to office, we've been very clear that Israel has an obligation under international humanitarian law to ensure the provision of aid in Gaza, and that UNRWA has a critical role in delivering that response. The UK remains firmly committed to upholding international law. It's the UK government's long-standing position that any determination as to whether a genocide has occurred is a matter for a competent national or international court, and this is consistent with our obligations under the Genocide Convention.
Lisa Smart.
Question 7, please, Mr. Speaker.
I thank the Honourable Lady for raising this question and for her continued work campaigning on child abduction and domestic abuse. The UK is actively engaged on this issue internationally and domestically. Where a child abduction offence has been committed, prosecutors will always consider the motivations and circumstances of the alleged abduction, recognising that some cases arise from complex family breakdowns. Ultimately, any decision will prioritise the safety and stability of the child.
Smart.
The Solicitor-General for the work she and others are doing on this topic. And I've had previous conversations with Justice Ministers who have outlined plans about initiating qualitative research on the operation of the 1980 Hague Convention, particularly in domestic abuse cases, which is really, really welcome for all of the Hague mothers and their families. However, there are many women across the country, including at least 2 in my constituency, who remain in limbo. So could the Solicitor-General set out specifically what discussions she's had with the Crown Prosecution Service about how it coordinates with family courts when they're hearing Hague Convention applications where domestic abuse is alleged, and could she update the House on what plans the government has to strengthen legal protections for mothers and children fleeing abuse under the Hague Convention?
Solicitor-General.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear of the honourable member's constituents' situation, and I'm aware she's met with colleagues from the Ministry of Justice. Commend her dedication in championing these issues. We're considering the further qualitative research on the operation of the Hague Convention in cases of domestic abuse, and will ensure that research is given full and proper consideration. I'm not sure of the exact details of her constituents' cases, but if she wanted to write to me with more detail, I can take it up with the CPS, or alternatively, the Honourable Lady may wish to meet with the Chief Crown Prosecutor in her region to discuss it further.
Final question, Melanie Neal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My constituent had a dreadful experience following her daughter's kidnap and assault. The CPS have admitted the handling of the case was flawed, including failing to offer a victim personal statement and too readily accepting a plea from the perpetrator, which meant that he got just a 12-month referral order. This government is firmly on the side of victims. How can it make sure that the CPS practice reflects that?
Solicitor-General.
I thank my honourable friend for that question. I'm very sorry to hear of her constituents' experience, and she is a great champion for them. I'm not aware of the specific details, but if the my honourable friend wishes to write to me, I will make sure that I raise it with the CPS, and again, if helpful, facilitate a meeting between my honourable friend and her local CPS area.
Right, we'll let the front bench change over.